Hey, it feels different, right?
Hello and welcome to episode 18 of Fantasy Sports. Today I'm going to be going over football like I usually do. There's a lot that happened this weekend with the Thursday Thanksgiving games, the Friday game against the Jets and the Dolphins, and the Sunday games as well as the Monday game. There's a lot of football to be covered this week. Not a lot of crazy games that really happened per se. There was a scoregami in the Broncos-Browns game, which is always something fun to see. But more or less, there are some implications for the playoffs that are important. Heading into the couple last weeks, at least we're almost 70% done with the season. There's some things that'll be changing in the upcoming weeks, depending on what teams win and lose, more so than there was in the earlier part of the season. But let's start with Thursday. Obviously, we got the Packers, Lions, Cowboys, Commanders, and the 49ers, Seahawks. Those were some fun games. The 49ers kind of pounced all over the Seahawks, just took that win with ease. Obviously, Brock Purdy didn't have too good of a game. He threw a pick six, but you could say it wasn't his fault, but regardless, the scorebox showed that he didn't play a great game, and the Seahawks kind of didn't take advantage of the fact that they had a lot of turnovers. They played sloppy on offense. But as for the Cowboys and Commanders, there was history made with DaRon Bland having his fifth pick six of the season, so that was really interesting to watch. They blew him out 45-10. We saw a lot on offense from the Cowboys. And the thing I took away from this game the most is Sam Howell. I think he's actually really good. I know that he had on that pick six, obviously DaRon Bland, but prior to that, he had been playing, pretty good with what, you could say is one of the best defense, if not top two, or if not the best defense in the league. He played very, very good. When you go against a team that's just much stronger than you, at the end of the day, it's hard, to keep producing, and especially when the offense just is scoring at will. It's hard to, win, but I always say this, it's not easy to get the lead in passing yards for the league. I think that's the biggest thing to take away from this. He has been consistent when it comes to, being able to produce on drives. Maybe not in the scoreboard, but in terms of what he's doing for his team, it's impressive to watch, especially with how bad that defense and team has been. For the Packers-Lions game, that was probably the most important game where the Packers upset the Lions. Obviously, the Lions dropped down now under the Ravens, I'm pretty sure. Different division. Regardless, the Packers came out, Love threw 3 touchdowns, very interesting game. Obviously, he didn't get his turkey leg. That was a big story. But it was a really interesting game. The Lions played really slow. They didn't look good. They had some turnovers. They had a lot of turnovers, actually. Goff had a lot of turnovers. And they had the fourth down fake punt. But the Packers came out, played a really strong game. It showed how good Jordan Love can be. I think the biggest part of this game, it showed how weak the offense and the Lions could be sometimes if they aren't getting in a groove. And especially for the defense. I mean, letting Jordan Love go out there and pretty much pass a perfect game isn't something you like to see if you're a Lions fan. It's definitely worrying, but with all that being said, I think it was just a stronger game on the Packers, and the Lions haven't won in like 20 years on Thanksgiving Day. So I don't think it's a big loss, but it's definitely something to take away. The Dolphins-Jets game, that was just a terrible game. Jalen Phillips wound up going down with a torn ACL. They had the 99-yard pick six. Jets didn't look good. I'm not sure about the third-string starter getting in the first string now, getting the first team reps. I don't know why Zach Wilson was benched. I know, obviously he hadn't been doing good, but I don't think whoever's starting now, I forget his name, is going to do any better. With Aaron Rodgers opening his 21-day practice window, I mean, that's interesting to see, but the Jets don't have a fighting chance. They've lost too many games at this point. I think it's interesting that, he even decided to come off IR and, open the fact that he could have like a practice window. I don't really understand it. I think it's better off for him to just rehab. But the next game I want to talk about, which is one of the most surprising games, was the Colts-Buccaneers. The Colts are now 6-5. I think they hold the 7th playoff spot in that division, and it was a really good game for them. They came out and they kind of played both sides of the ball really well. Buccaneers obviously got some late scores, but the Colts looked really strong, and especially with Gardner Minshew at quarterback. You don't expect a team to do great. Obviously, when he was on the Jaguars, he led them to a pretty good record, and he's a decent quarterback at best. But it's really interesting to see him just continue to lead the team into wins, and especially with Jonathan Taylor coming back a couple weeks ago, he's looked really strong. They released Shaquille Leonard, who wasn't getting enough playing time, even though they signed him to that $100 million contract recently. It's just interesting because they are a good team, and it's really crazy to think that it's been the same position for them for a while now, where They're just missing that quarterback piece. When Luck was there, they were really good. They had that one season with Phillip Rivers when they were missing a quarterback and they did good. And even when Wentz was there and he wasn't playing his best ball, they still did really good. So it's just unfortunate that the Colts keep having this one miscue and it's the quarterback. But yeah, definitely that was a really good game. Buccaneers played very, very well. Baker played very well. Not a bad team by any means, just the Colts got out on top. For the Giants-Patriots game, went in overtime, 10-7. My friend was there. Obviously, I feel the need to talk about the Giants, like I say every week. I think it's very interesting to see how good they can be, but also in the fact that, having a quarterback like Tommy DeVito go out there and produce is something that I think is very interesting. As for the Patriots, you saw Bailey Zappi and Mac Jones come out for 3 picks and not even over 120 yards. So I think that's the biggest concern for the Patriots. But as for the Giants, I don't know if you should be winning these games. I know I've said it before. And I've been talking to people who have said the same thing where they want Marvin Harrison Jr. They want to take Caleb Williams if they get those 2 picks in top 1 or 2. So it's definitely interesting to see the Giants winning. I know it doesn't mean that they're not going to try to win games if it's given. They only won by 3, scoring 10 points. But yeah, Giants season seems kind of, in this gray area right now where you're not sure what you want as a fan. And then for the Steelers-Bengals game, being a Steelers fan, this was a great game for me. We finally put up over 400 yards. I think we averaged 6.2 yards per play, where we had averaged 4.8 for 3 season straight with Matt Canada. So this was great. Obviously, we didn't put up a lot of yards. Scoring. We didn't put up points. We put up 16 points and won 16-10 against the Bengals, who didn't even have Joe Burrow. But we won, and we put up a lot of yards, and Kenny Pickett looked like he was letting loose. He was letting the ball fly. He missed a couple throws, made a couple bad reads, but he did really, much better than he had been doing prior, which is the biggest thing for me is growth. And I love that. I love that the Steelers finally are having something good to talk about. Or not that they haven't because they've been winning, but it just seems like winning with a negative mindset and a negative energy on that team. But I guess the biggest thing for us to find out right now is what's up with Deontay Johnson. That's been the big topic of discussion for the Steelers and his lack of effort and lack of productivity. So that's interesting to see. And then for the last couple games to wrap up, we had the for Sunday. We had the Jaguars-Texans. That was a good game, 24-21, where we saw the Texans kicker miss the field goal by an inch of on the field goal on the post. Wound up bouncing back, but that was a really good game. C.J. Stroud looked really good. Trevor Lawrence came out and dominated in the first half, and then Kevin really caught fire in the second. So a really strong Jaguars team leading that division, looking really, really good. Looked like they're going to hold that position for the rest of the season. As for the Texans, big loss. I'm pretty sure they lost the week prior. So it just kind of sucks for them because they've been getting hot. And CJ's been really good. He's been getting really close in games. It just sucks that they haven't won. But there's nothing negative I have to say coming out of this game. It was just 2 teams played very competitively, and the Jaguars wound up winning by 3. So definitely an interesting game. Definitely would like to see the Texans make the playoffs when it's all said and done. Then for the Saints-Falcons game, this is just the epitome of another average game. The Falcons coming out winning is classic. It's wouldn't have shocked me to see the Falcons win by 2 points on some just crazy stuff. Saints put up 15. Derek Carr threw a pick 6 to literally no one. Saw Jesse Bates get 2 picks. So it was an interesting game because I had Chris Olave and he had 114 or 117 yards in the first half, and then he actually led the league in he was a top 5 receiver this week in terms of yards. And he didn't play the second half. But Bijan had a really big game. Drake London seemed like he made some big catches. Kyle Pitts has kind of been put on the back burner for this season again, so I'm wondering what that means for him in the future, as in terms of what he will do for this team and if he's actually good. I know that's just a funny thing to say, but because since they haven't had a quarterback, but it begs to differ. If Drake London could still kind of produce at some level and Kyle Pitts can't, they're not using him right, or is he just not good? And as for the Saints, I think this is a lost season at this point. Derek Carr hasn't looked the part. They obviously made this big trade for, Derek Carr, signed him for a lot of money. And I think it's the coach that's out after the season. You have a team who's pretty decent. You have a pretty good team on paper, gets the turnovers, can't produce on offense. It's kind of confusing when you have Chris Olave, Rashid Shaheed, or what's his name? That guy. Number 21, and Michael Thomas and Alvin Kamara, and a pretty good offensive line, as well as Jamal Williams, who led the league in touchdowns last year and hasn't gotten a single carry. So it's confusing, and I think that'll be one of being the biggest things in the offseason for the Saints to focus on is coaching. For the Rams-Cardinals game, the Rams kind of just blew the Cardinals out of the water. Kyron Williams came back. I think he put up 200 scrimmage yards, 2 touchdowns. He had a lot of receiving yards. He looked dominant. The Cardinals didn't look bad. I know that's funny to say. Well, Kyler Murray didn't look bad, but the Cardinals looked bad as a whole. Matt Stafford wound up throwing 4 touchdowns, so that was a really dominant game for the Rams, coming out and just, pretty much putting it on them. But yeah, with that being said, I don't think that game has any implications for anything. They both are bottom teams, and, it was just one of those games where it was fun to see Kyron Williams come back off the injury and really dominate. And then for the scoreonomy, the Broncos are on their 5-game win streak, and I wish they'd won at least 1 or 2 games because I really want to see Russell in the playoffs. And they lost those early 2 games by like 2 points against the Raiders and I forget the other team, and the Commanders. And it's unfortunate because they're such a good team now. You wish they had won those earlier and figured it out, but they clearly have figured it out now. So I'd like to see where that's going. The Browns had a lot of injuries. Myles Garrett got injured. Amari Cooper got injured. Dorian Thompson got injured, the quarterback. So yeah, for the Browns, not another confusing, but a loss that I think reflects what their team is. Obviously, the Steelers lost to them last week, which was a big loss. I really wish we had gotten that win. But it's confusing. Like, are the Browns a good team with, no really great quarterback play? Are they a bad team because they can't really put it up on offense, but they have it on defense? So I think that's something to watch as it dwindles down to the end of the season and the playoffs, come to reality. Bills-Eagles game, that was a really good game, 37-34. We saw the Eagles win in overtime with a Jalen Hurts rushing touchdown. Obviously, Jake Elliott wound up kicking the 59-yard field goal to put them into overtime. And the Bills had lost this one. They were up a lot at one point. Then they wound up getting down. And they wound up getting up again. Just kind of a back-and-forth game, but the Eagles wound up pulling this through. And I think it's just a reflection of how good they are as a team. Jalen Hurts had a really pitiful first half, and then he came out with 5 touchdowns in the second half in overtime. So that's something really that blew my mind, just how good Jalen Hurts can be under pressure, and the fact that he can still finish a game out regardless of the score. So that was definitely really interesting. But yeah, I think the Bills' season's kind of over at this point, as well as a lot of good teams that you don't want to say they're over. But I don't think the Bills make the playoffs and actually win. Even if they make the playoffs, which is a very long shot at this point, I think they'd have to pretty much win out. I don't see them going far. They just haven't had it on either side of the ball this year. I know this is a game that they lost by 3 and put up 34, but it's another game they lost against a good team. So it seems like that's just what they're biting every single time they go against these top teams is a tough loss. But yeah, I think that's something interesting to see what happens in the offseason, who they move. Obviously, Von Miller hasn't played in a while. It's confusing because you see him still produce in the past couple seasons, and it's just interesting to see what will be moved around with Diggs and all that. Yeah, and then as for the Chiefs-Raiders game, that was another interesting game. The Raiders got up early, and the Chiefs wound up winning 31-17. I think it was a good offensive game for the Chiefs. I think they really needed this. But, I think at the same time, it's a game that reflects the Chiefs' weaknesses, which is offense. They were losing and they weren't doing good and they caught fire, but beating the Raiders by 14 and especially making it seem like it wasn't as close of a game or a closer game that it really was. Let me say that it was a closer game than it may appear. Is not a good look for them. Mahomes has been doing very good this year in terms of quarterback play, but he hasn't been on his own level. You know what I'm saying? So it's just interesting to see where that goes, especially into the playoffs, like I've been saying. And for the rest of the season, just because I feel like at this point you expect a level from the Chiefs that is unmatched, and the Eagles have been playing at that level or a level above what the Chiefs have. And, at the end of the day, you look at a team like the Chiefs and you expect them to be so dominant with Mahomes and how they have been in the past, and they just haven't been. So that's something I would keep an eye on. For the Ravens-Chargers game, and then I'm not even going to talk about the Bears-Vikings game because the Bears-Vikings game was so bad. It was a Monday night game. The Bears won 12-10. And it was just bad. I mean, Justin Fields didn't play good. Josh Dobbs didn't play good. The defenses, I guess you could say, play well, but they just made stops. It was like a no-offense game. And as for the Vikings, I mean, I know they said they were going to reevaluate with Josh Dobbs after this week, but I mean, what's there to reevaluate? I mean, he had one bad game. Obviously, throwing 4 picks is terrible. It was a terrible game. But yeah, I don't know. He played good the past 3 games. They only lost the last game by a small margin. So I think that's confusing. But, when you have a team that's kind of lost and you don't know if you really want to win, if you want to lose, what you're going to do. I guess I get the point of reevaluating and just watching, someone younger play. And then for the Ravens-Chargers game, this is the last game that I'll be talking about. This is a really good game. It essentially shuts down the Chargers season. They lost 20-10. And I think in the offseason, there's going to be a lot of moves that are going to be made for the Chargers. I think it's going to be a big blow up. I don't think the coach is going to be there. I'm shocked to say that I don't know how it's going to go with Eckler and Keenan and Justin. I think those 3 in their own facets. They'll be someone will be there, but I don't know how it's going to wind up working out because Eckler looks slow. Keenan's getting older. Justin keeps producing and nothing's coming of it. So it's definitely interesting for them. And for the Ravens, they're now leading the division. They're one of the best teams in the league offensively and defensively. When it comes to running the ball, they are so dominant. It's impressive. Lamar has been playing at another level this season in terms of what he's done passing. Obviously, we know what he can do with his legs, but he's taking it a level up when it comes to throwing the ball. So it's definitely one of the best aspects of the Ravens for me is watching Lamar because I love Lamar. He's my biggest. I'm his biggest supporter through like when he was just not playing well last year without Mark Andrews, and he still played well without Mark Andrews on Sunday night. So it's definitely something I love about that team is just the fact that they always have these players that are just doubted because it's a team full of like not stars. I feel like you have Lamar who's a star, but then you don't really have anyone else. Like you have Roquan Smith and Lamar, and you have all these players who are like semi good and not semi good, but like in their own capacities like good players, and I really like that about the Ravens and the coach. But yeah, that's all that really happened on Monday through this past week. Obviously, I didn't cover the last week, but that was a great week as well. With everything that happened, Thanksgiving and everything. I didn't talk about the week 11, but yeah, with playoffs coming up, it's definitely interesting to watch what's going to happen. I know I'm very excited, and I know you guys should be excited as well if you love football. So next week is another week, and I hope you guys appreciated this episode and tune in next Wednesday. Thank you.